like to call to order the Munhall Borough Workshop Meeting for October 8th, 2024. Melissa, you want us to do the call? No, I can do the call. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. David, will you lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Melissa, would you like to do the roll call now?
Sure. President Brennan,
Here.
Vice President Ondo,
Here.
Councilwoman Bragg,
Here.
Councilman Youngkins,
Here.
Councilman Shields,
Here.
Councilman Eads,
Here.
Councilman Bodian, Mayor Falls, Engineer Matt,
Here.
Mr. Bicey,
Here.
Mr. Cannon,
Here.
and Borough Manager Mr. Ty.
Here. Mr. Fuller.
And Chief Fuller,
Here.
Chief Coles.
Here.
All right, they're here.
The gang's all here. So we have one registered presenter tonight from the Project Panther Development. Ambrose Property Group, would you please come and take the floor and present to us if you like?
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me. Is this a good spot to stand right here?
It's absolutely a great spot.
All right, lovely. So I handed out some documents here to start the evening. I'll give a quick overview of who Ambrose is, who we are as a company, and then dive into more of the project-specific stuff, answer any questions you all have. With me as well, I have Chris from Civil and Environmental Consultants. He's going to be our civil and environmental engineer here on this project. So from a high level, Ambrose, we are an industrial property developer based out of Indianapolis, but we travel all over the country, servicing great clients and building new Class A industrial all over the country. My primary focus is build-to-suit projects. Build-to-suit project is when an end user or a client comes to us as a developer and says, hey, I need to be at this location and be operational by this date. Can you please build me a facility here? That's kind of what this Project Panther is. It is a build-to-suit project, meaning the end client has selected us as their development partner, and we're going to go ahead and build them this facility here over the next year or so. Ambrose, as a firm, we are capitalized using private equity, fully discretionary capital funds. All of our capital is controlled by our principals of the company, meaning there's no external approvals or nobody outside the company who really controls that money. It's an important message we convey to a lot of folks, meaning that when we commit to doing a project, we have the cash and the capital to kind of back it up and actually pull it off from a financial standpoint. From a construction standpoint, we'll be partnering with local general contractors and local subcontractors to construct this project. And yeah, any questions about Ambrose or us as a company, or usually go straight into the project here?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Who's the end client?
So I was just going to segue that into, we have a pretty toothy non-disclosure agreement in place with the end user. They've asked us not to share their name with any outside groups. The main reason for that being is they want to control the messaging with their employee base, existing and new employees as they go out and hire them when the time is right. So they've asked us to kind of keep their name off the record for the time being, just so they can better manage that conversation with their employees. So I know that's kind of a non-answer, but that is the answer I'm legally required to give at this point, if that makes sense. So the project in question is located at 881 East Waterfront Drive, right next to, I think it's been referred to as the Big Blue Building, down the waterfront, down there on the river. We're purchasing a portion of that site for the construction of this facility. That facility in question is going to be a 90,000 square foot Class A industrial building. You'll notice on the site plan in front of you, we've got about 220 employee auto parking areas, as well as a truck parking on the back of the building. The building itself will be about 32 foot high, 32 foot clear inside the building, meaning it'll be about 35, 36 foot tall on the outside of the building. The building will be precast or tilt wall construction, so good looking new building. A lot of glass, a lot of attractive features from an architectural standpoint to it. We're super excited about the project. Part of the design of this project is environmentally and sustainability driven. The end client has instructed us to pursue multiple sustainability initiatives with the design of this project. We'll be pursuing a LEED Gold certification with this project, meaning this project is going to exceed a lot of current environmental guidelines, and it will just be a very, very nice, environmentally conscious and green building, if that makes sense. It's about 90,000 square foot, as I mentioned before. That building is going to be broken up into office, R&D, testing, and actual manufacturing assembly space inside the building. The design for the interior of the space is still underway, but you can see kind of from the outline of the building, there are locked windows on the exterior, which will be primarily where the office and those interior spaces are located. And we're currently working through the design process here with Chris and his team. In the very near future, we will have an architect on board with general contractor partner to fully inform the design of the building itself. Our intent is to break ground on this facility likely early spring of 2025, just to avoid winter conditions, avoid battling the cold. This is our kind of intent there, with the end goal of delivering the facility here a couple months after that, ideally by fall of 2025. So yeah, it's the project in a nutshell. Any questions on that overview of it?
How many employees we have?
So again, I'm not allowed to say how many employees that are going to be working in this facility. What I can say is the parking lot is sized to accommodate the shifts that this employer will be employing.
So it's going to be operating 24 hours a day?
It should not be operating 24 hours a day. Now, there's two shifts. The first shift is primarily the Universe Assembly folks. We'll start a little bit earlier in the morning, and the later shift is going to be like your 9 a.m. type shift where the engineers, research, R&D people will come in.
Have you purchased the property?
We have a purchase and sale agreement in place right now. Ideally, we'll close on the ground and start construction immediately thereafter. We have a couple items we need to line up here on our end first, mainly get permitted, get designed, get everything in hand. We need to basically start construction prior to that.
Do you need anything special to be granted by council?
Not right now. The one question we have been kicking around is the public process, what we need to do. The site is entitled heavy industrial currently, that's its zoning classification. Looking through the zoning code, all uses that will be going on in this facility will fit into that classification without much issue. I guess what our question is we want to understand better if we need to come to public meetings, if we need to go through a public process with planning commission with council approval, or if we are by right allowed to construct this facility. In a situation like that, it's pretty typical for us to seek what's called a zoning confirmation memo, where we'll get with Borough and any council of Borough and basically just say, hey, you have to sign off on building this, if these are your intended uses and that kind of thing. We're happy to pen a letter or do anything needed to do that. The other process, the public process, we go through very, very frequently too, where it's the full, you come to a public meeting, you come to public council, and you gotta get council something off at the end of the day. So we were curious what the correct process would be there if we are zoned by right. Obviously, takes some timing out of it for us and it's more attractive to our end user. But we always follow whatever process is needed.
Well, that would go to the zoning officer or the engineer, I believe. Right there?
Yeah, I mean, if you, I think I talked to you earlier, if you meet all the zoning requirements, permitted use, and all setbacks,
Gotcha.
you're good, but I mean, I think I mentioned to you earlier,
Yeah.
once you get the drawings of what's gonna look like, show council what the building's gonna look like.
Yeah. Gotcha. So in that case, we could submit it, be more of an administrative review, and then we get a formal sign off from yourself.
Right.
Perfect. Yeah, and the drawings we have laid out, we're still under design, obviously, so stuff will change, we'll move around a little bit. But the building elevations you see are pretty like kind to what we're gonna be constructing at the end of the day. And the site plan we're confined by our set boundaries, it's not gonna change too much by any means at all. Obviously, we need to accommodate, make sure we're designing for utilities, storm, detention, everything like that appropriately, so stuff could shift around and move a little bit. But it's our intent to kind of run with that basic site plan.
So you're the general,
What was that?
you're the general contractor,
No, I'm working with the developer,
developer.
correct?
So the general will be, who knows?
Yeah, and we've put this project now out for bid publicly, so I'm sure various subcontractors and stuff are getting solicited right now.
How long do you think that'll take?
Those processes generally run about a month, at which point this is going through a design build process, which means we'll select a general contractor based on their price and schedule, at which point they'll kind of run the design of the building itself and make sure all permits, all regulations are met for the building itself. So it's kind of a way for us to hand that over to be as cost effective and as timely as possible with the general contractor bring their folks on board for the design of the building. That makes sense?
Right.
Is there gonna be a place to hold rainwater?
Yeah, so on that site plan there, if you look on the riverside, there is an existing stormwater detention facility. It's our intent to reuse as much of that facility as we can. In addition, there are some existing underground detention facilities we plan to utilize. If we can, that's what Chris is and their team really diving into the details on is, are those sized appropriately to handle what we need and do we need to modify or upsize anything to meet the needs?
So I just have to bring this up because this was a contentious portion of the last developer, and people, they wanted to have a bike path going back through here, if I'm correct. And the bike path now comes through this way along the road, and there was questions of, traffic coming in and out, and it was pretty much a question of what was gonna happen. And that never happened because the last people, they stopped development. So I was just bringing that up I see you got fences going along the whole property in the back here. And I guess this is a gate you have here, but is the whole property gonna be fenced off back there?
Just the back of the property, and that's pretty typical for industrial. Usually if the trucks move, they have trailers parked there, they just want to ensure that those trailers are.
But you're already at this side of the bike path now.
Yeah,
Right.
we're utilizing,
Yeah.
we're utilizing the existing curb cut and all that
Right.
existing stuff should remain as is basically.
Okay, I don't see an issue with it.
So,
Dave, do you have any questions or whatnot? You would know more than anyone.
No, not at this time, until I get that letter to see exactly what's gonna be going in there.
CEC's doing all the stormwater calcs? Okay.
Yeah, there's an existing NPS permit in place, with some existing stormwater that we're to see if we can how much we can reutilize, or if we need to add some more as well. But yeah, we'll be diving into that design here.
Okay, yeah, just get it to me so I can review it before it's on off or on behalf of the borough.
Okay. Yeah. Is there anything else you need to see on your end, or you just concentrate on the stormwater?
Just mostly stormwater.
Okay.
And you are Dan, right?
that's me, yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
Awesome.
Anything else you'd like to bring to our attention?
No, not right now. I want to thank you all for the time this evening. We're super excited about this project. We're excited to work with end client, kind of announce who they are, and it should be a great project. We're excited for it, so.
And it's gonna be a big flat roof?
Typically, these roofs are flat membrane roofs, yeah. The client's exploring the option right now. We're exploring it with them about potentially putting solar panels on the roof. Again, kind of their green sustainability initiatives. So roof will likely be covered with panels at the end of the day, would be my guess. So
Okay.
should be pretty high tech looking building.
Okay. Any other questions, council? Dan, thank you for coming.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Gotta wait to see.
Okay. So we'll move further. We have public comments. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person, and and must avoid references to personalities, and personnel-related issues. Okay, so we'll move on to our standing committee reports. We'll start with the Finance Committee. Mr. Shields? you have a
I'll
report?
defer to the manager. The meeting was changed till next Monday, the finance meeting, so
Okay. Well, the only thing of note is the fact that you now have a very, very rough budget for next year in your packets.
okay.
Okay,
So when you review that, I'm gonna talk to these departments probably next week and make sure that we get all of their requests in and get the feedback from council on what we have here.
so will you be having any budgetary meetings?
Yeah, we can have a visitor meeting, whatever we council would like me to do, however the process is. And we can talk about it more with the finance committee next week as well.
Okay,
But I'll, once I get input from all departments, final input from them, then I'll, we can
move forward.
move forward.
All right, thank you. Public Works? Paul?
Well, should have the leaf machine up and running next week, so,
The what machine?
leaf machine.
Oh, okay,
Pretty much done with paving this year, we'll do some potholes, but I'll let them know.
the paving program went well?
It could have been better, but it was all right. So,
Okay, but they are complete with the paving that we
Yes.
had done, correct?
Yep,
Great,
that's all I have.
thank you. Parks and Rec?
I'm happy to tell you that last night Kevin, Rick, and I met, and we did say we want to clarify everything for anybody who's interested. The Halloween parade will be on Saturday, October 26th. It will start up at First Commonwealth. The parade itself, the lineup is at 2 o'clock, the parade starts at 2:30. It will come straight down Main Street to Fire Hall number 4. If anybody would like to help assemble the goodie bags that are distributed at the Fire Hall, please come on Wednesday, October 23rd at 6:30. They will greatly appreciate it. Rob Falls asked if I would mention to the police and the fire, please make sure that the traffic is closed off between 1:30 and 4 on Saturday. If anybody has any other questions, please ask me. And the other thing that we mentioned was we'd like to see the gazebo itself down at Kennedy Park is in pitiful shape. And it will take time and it will take a lot of money. And I'd like to think that there'd be some grant money, or maybe we could think about that, because I think we could make some money or other people could use it. Right now, it's not safe. And Ryan Highland, who is doing his Boy Scout Eagle Award down there, I mean, he's trying his very best, but he can't touch that gazebo. I mean, that's so far out of his control. So I just wanted to mention that.
When you say it's unsafe, what's going on?
The rails are not, I mean, if you lean against them, they'll probably go over. I wish the Father Ray was here, because he and I did that.
Well, maybe we should think about roping it off if it's unsafe.
We were there, Kevin and I walked through around the whole gazebo. It needs attention, I don't know about being unsafe.
Right.
I think, maybe Dave or someone from the borough should walk down and take a good look at it, but I don't think that it's gonna fall through. It has wood that's rotted throughout.
Right.
It needs attention,
And
but,
with the rails going with the cement on the bottom, that whole area going around is not solid.
so, Dave, why don't you take a look at that and, see if it's safe or not, and we'll go back to, square one down there with that thing. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I got some. So, this past weekend, they had it was a fundraiser at Woodhill Park, a girls softball for Jeannie Strang, who has cancer, and it was a fundraiser for her, and it was like a huge success. I mean, it was like wall-to-wall people up there. I don't know really how much money that they collected for her, but, you know, like the Chinese auctions and stuff like that, there was, you know,
I heard 28.
I heard 30, but I didn't
Yeah.
want to say that.
Yeah, it's,
30,000.
we're both pretty close.
Yeah. Another thing too, last Sunday, they had the unveiling of the monument on Main Street. Mrs. Fry and myself and the mayor were there. What a job he did, what a transformation he did on that monument. So if you get the opportunity to ride by or stop and take a look at it, he had put a flag depository up there for his grandfather, who was a World War II veteran and stuff, and he also put a bird feeder. So while he was speaking and giving his little speech, there were birds like all over the bird feeder. So maybe that was that's what his grandfather did. He used to feed birds, you know, with his little bird feeder. But there were birds like all over the bird feeder, so maybe that was a good sign. But he did a great job up there. So like I said, if you get the opportunity to go up there and take a ride by, you know, that's one of our highlights in the borough. So that's it. That's all I got.
Okay. All right, we'll go to community and property. Dave, you have anything to say?
I wasn't at the meeting, you were.
Okay. Well, the meeting was a insightful meeting. We spoke some more. And some of the things that we're going to be considering on talking about for next week are going to be on there about the sheriff's sale process, the forgiveness of back properties, the land bank. We're not really sure the whole process of how the land bank works, so we're going to try to get more information on that. Those were the two major things that came out of the meeting. It was not a well-attended meeting as far as like the first one was, but there were residents there and we had good conversation and it went well. And certainly the code enforcement officer was there, and we're going to move on to code enforcement. Dave?
Thank you, President. You have a copy of my report. Building permits issued 10, occupancy inspections 28, lien letters sent out 16, code enforcement letters several. Containers, I went down on the northern end of Munhall, and anybody that had garbage out 2 days prior without lids on their garbage cans, I sent out notification letters to them, 115 of them. I just did the northern part of Munhall. Court hearings, there was 19 court hearings. 4 were found guilty of a fine of $7,500, and 12 were removed. That concludes my report.
So Dave, I have a question for you, because we're looking through other things that we're going to be considering about raising rates for Westfield, raising rates for Munhall sanitation. What about, how many inspections did you have?
28.
And they were what? What kind of inspections?
Either rental properties or sales.
And occupation?
That's occupancy inspections, yes.
Yeah. So do those rates need raised a little as well or not?
We charge $75.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's a fair price.
I mean, other people, there are other municipalities that have lower or higher. Some rate, have
That's
$100.
fine. I just thought I see we're talking about that, and I wanted your input, that's all. Okay, anything else? Any questions for Dave?
Dave, when you send out the notices, do you send it to the homeowners, or do you send it to the people who live in the house, like their renters?
The homeowners. The homeowner's responsible.
I was just wondering.
Okay, any other questions? Let's move on to the engineer.
It's been a relatively slow month, waiting on grant money to come in. We were issued a grant through the dirt and gravel program through the County Conservation District for Creek Street. They gave us a full $142,000 for that.
Wow.
So, hopefully in the next month or two, we get the GEDTF grant and put that portion to bed. I seen, over the last week, there's another part of Ravine Street, creek that's eroding, walls falling in.
Are they our walls?
From what we discovered so far, probably, 30, 40 years ago, Public Works put them in.
Longer than that.
This one's not as bad.
It's the Mickey factor.
It's the wood ties are all rotted, so that probably easy to fix. Take it out, put new ties in, or concrete slabs.
How much was the last wall repaired? Do you remember? Was it $60,000?
I want to say probably close to 50, 60, yeah.
Curious.
This
Do
one's a,
we have any idea how many walls we put up down there over the last 30 years? Probably not.
I couldn't tell you. It doesn't,
Bicey, we have no idea what the previous, there's a lot.
Yeah, I'd have to go down and look at them. Yeah, there's probably about 10 or 12 of them.
That's it? Now, how do we know they belong to us?
We just fixed them, I don't know.
Who put the tile walls in, do we know?
We didn't use any ties.
Somebody did before
Mickey
we
used
were around,
concrete.
I'm sure.
We used concrete.
Well, there's ties in there too, that's why everything's rotten. And it takes a long time to rot the tie.
They could be 50, 60 years old.
Mhm.
Not old.
John Barhola lived down there. He grew up down there. He was 10 years old. He said his dad was complaining because the borough was putting in walls behind their house, and they didn't want them. But the borough made them take them.
Before my time.
We can take
For
it
my time too.
one at a time.
And has there been any movement on Creek Street up there at all?
I have not even had a chance to look at it. David forwarded an email to Dave, and I haven't had a chance to make it down there to put eyes on it.
I look at it all the time. It doesn't seem like it's moved.
That's good.
Floyd's not here, so it must be doing okay.
Oh, that,
I've been trying to
that,
keep
that,
time.
yeah, that I've seen. I meant the other one I just brought up. Yeah. It looks pretty good. I mean, it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Floyd's not here, so it must be okay.
So the cost for the Creek Street fix is what, $450,000? Somewhere there, 500,000?
500,000.
Right, and we've got 142 already,
Yes.
and we've applied for the difference,
Well, we applied for the 500,000 in a separate grant.
okay?
When we met with the conservation district, they want us to restore the road, not just hit the slide area, but all the way to the bridge. So there'll be a little bit additional work that we will use that money that we just got for, but the other 500 will cover everything.
Will they extend it a little further out the road, make it a little wider?
That's the intention. When they put the hillside back, to put it back to where it was, so those folks have a wider driving lane.
And part of that, for getting the grant, we are allowed to pave that road for at least 3 years. If we pave the road, then we gotta give the grant money back. I spoke to the lady that day.
Because it's a stone
Because they gave it to us because of that. There's not many stone roads in Allegheny County anymore.
Okay. And is that a private road, or is that our road?
As far as we know, the borough maintains it, so it's borough road.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for the engineer? All right, fire chief?
Thank you, Mr. President. Everybody should have a copy of my report. For the month of September, the Borough Bureau of Fire had 49 calls, 27 in town, 22 mutual aid requests, and our average response times for dispatch to being en route was 4 minutes and 10 seconds, and from dispatch to on scene was 5 minutes and 55 seconds. This is our busy time, so I actually have to talk for an actual minute or two. Since the last council meeting, we've hosted an elevator rescue operations class, a structural collapse awareness class, reading spoke seminar. We were able to acquire a live burn training day this past Saturday at the Westmoreland County Community College, where all the members were down there to learn pump operations, getting the new guys in on interior operations and so on and so forth. It was a full day from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we are now starting tonight a basic vehicle rescue class, which is going to be several nights a week for the next several weeks. This is also our fire prevention time of year. We will be going to St. Teresa's School tomorrow at 8:45 to do their fire prevention talk. We'll be at Park School this Friday at 10 a.m. to do their talk. And we'll be at Lowe's Home Improvement on Saturday from 10 to 1. And we are also scheduling the talk for the residents of the Parkview Towers. As Rainey mentioned before, we are already making the preparations to work with the road closures for the Halloween parade. And as always, our crews will be out patrolling for the trick-or-treat hours. And that's it for me for right now. Unless you have any questions.
I got a question.
Absolutely.
How do you keep your response times? Who does it? You? The borough? The fire
I get it off the county CAD. So I'll sit down when I do the report. I'll list all the calls in Munhall from time of dispatch, acknowledgement and route, on scene, and clear. I do not include any mutual aid responses out of town, because if the rehab's going to something that's 25 minutes away, that would, you know, make us look horrible. But it's all emergency calls in the borough, and I have a computer program where I punch in all the times, and it gives me the average for that month.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief?
Out of curiosity, did you, when you said you're going to Park, you're going to St. Teresa, when you said Lowe's, L-O-W-E-S at the water
Yeah,
park?
Lowe's Home
What's that
Improvement.
for?
They have, it's a public safety day. They do that every year in conjunction with fire prevention. So we'll take a few trucks down there. We'll have brochures for people walking in and out if they want to look at the trucks, look at the gear, ask questions, demonstrations. We can do basic demonstrations with vehicle rescue tools and stuff like that. And we're not going to cut a car, but, you know, simple basic demos for them, but just to be visible.
And when's that day?
That would be this Saturday from 10 to 1. You're welcome.
So chief, how many firefighters do we have?
On average, we have active-wise, we have roughly 20 to 25 per station. Non-active, you can add another, when I say non-active, it's like support members or retired people that still, you know, sell and go to the meetings and stuff like that. You'd probably add another 15 to each station on that end. But I always go by active, interior, or people responding to the calls where
So we have 100 guys that are active, or what?
But I would say average about 80, maybe 80 to 100.
That's great.
That's phenomenal.
Yep. Very good. Thank you for all for your efforts. Okay, let's move on to the police chief.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council has a copy of my report. For the month of September, officers responded to 667 calls for service. They made 38 arrests, conducted 102 traffic stops, and issued 101 traffic citations. Officers worked an extra 136 hours in extra details, 81 hours of regular overtime, and 87 hours of court time. The police department participated in Click It and Ticket again on September 19th. It was 4 Munhall officers, and they each worked 4-hour shifts. They towed a total of 20 vehicles, issued 21 citations, and made 2 arrests. Detective Trout completed a 2-day sexual assault investigation training, and the Munhall K-9 unit participated in a locker search at this Steel Valley High School. That's all I have. If you have any questions.
I have a question. On the Click It and Ticket, are we looking for people with no seatbelts on? Is that how we're pulling them over?
No, you have to have a primary violation, speeding, going through a stop sign, going through a red light. Then once we pull you over, if you're not wearing a seatbelt, that's a secondary offense. And we also check for infants and children in car seats, make sure that they're properly restrained.
Okay.
So
I'm
Chief,
just curious how that works.
you're not using the plate readers and pulling people over as they come through there? as
We
well?
currently, they're not working properly, so.
They're not working?
We're working on it. It's a software issue.
Okay. Any other questions for the chief?
Yeah, I got a comment. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, we had a resident who had passed away. He was the past commander for the Catholic War Vets for the 100 years, I guess, you know. Ray Condis. And the last meeting, I had asked if we could have a police escort to his final resting place, and the chief was gracious enough to do that, and it was pretty solemn. You know, if anybody knew him, Ray Condis, I knew him well. So anyway, thank you, Chief. Thank you very much.
Okay. Borough manager?
All right, a couple things I want to talk about. One thing I put into the budget is for the next 2 years, split over $25,000 a year, is to basically redo all of our ordinances, which are very outdated.
Okay.
Which will help solve a variety of different problems we're having. So that's one thing I want to start the process of looking at that.
To redo what?
Review the ordinances,
Oh,
rewrite them. They're quite dated. There's a lot of questions that come up and we don't have good answers to because of that.
So that's $50,000.
50,000 roughly.
Okay.
The S&P bond rating drop, which I sent out a couple weeks ago, you have a copy of it here. I'll hit the highlights. Primarily, we've dropped 2 ratings from A to BBB+ as a borough, which means we dropped below BBB- will be in what is generically called junk bond territory, which is something we have to avoid at all costs.
Was there any penalty for that?
There is no immediate penalty. They basically have a negative outlook of the borough's finances, which means that in 2 years they will review the borough's at that time. But if a credit situation is drastically altered with the United States as a whole, they might review it after 12 months.
But the reduction now, there was no penalty?
There's no immediate penalty now, but we just got to make sure we
Right.
don't slide any further and try to build it back up.
So could that run into a problem with the bonds that we have for the building now?
Not currently, not currently.
Okay.
But we just got to make sure we don't fall below BBB.
Okay.
The big highlights, the big concerns from S&P were basically the turnover in managers and inconsistent management for many years is a concern of theirs. The fact that we have a $6 million bond out, which in the next 10 years, 34% will be retired. That's another concern of theirs, outlined in the report.
What do you mean by that?
Basically, in the next 10 years, 34% of our $6 million bond should be repaid.
Okay. Is that bad or good?
It's just a lot of money considering that we have a reserve of, on average, of $300,000.
Okay.
We have a reserve of 3%, which they highlighted is very low for our commission.
Mhm.
So we have to basically work hard to build up our reserves as best as possible. Also, the TAM was noted as well, the $7,000 we have right now out as a TAM loan. And I really want to get away from doing these TAMs if we can all.
They frown upon tan loans?
Yes.
Really? Wow, that's the first
We
I've
need to
heard
have
of
enough reserve at the end of the year to basically cover the first 3 months of operation until taxes come in.
that. Okay,
So,
interesting.
so I don't think we can get away with the TAN loan entirely, next year, but I'd like to reduce it to at least, at most 500,000.
Okay.
So that's what I want to work towards. We'll have to see how we are towards the end of, our cash flow towards the end of the year.
Right.
But if you have any questions, take a look at this again, if you read it, let me know, and I can always follow up directly.
I would really like to talk to you more about it
Sure.
because it's really informative. Just a few things you've told us right now has really changed from what we've always been told. So, thank you, David.
But my primary focus for day-to-day operations is to make sure that this gets turned around.
Absolutely. And that all goes with the budget.
Yes. Exactly. A couple other quick things. This one is here. We do have an LSA grant we should probably apply for sometime this year. And it's, do you know what closes in November, mid-November? Is that when it closes? So we don't have much time left. I need to talk with Dan about options, but does anybody have any ideas of what we want to try to get money for?
What is an LSA grant?
That's the local shares, I don't know what the A stands for. Basically, it's the gaming money from the state.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't require any match, it's just free money. If we can come up with a project that's good enough to
Main Street.
Main Street. Is that, do you think that's what I can work with Dan to come up with a more comprehensive application for the Main Street project, which seems to be a high priority. Any other ideas? Think about it for next week, and we can make a final recommendation to Dan next week.
Can we apply for that type of a grant to finish like building out this building or the old municipal building?
We could do that. I'll talk with Dan to see what he thinks of which would be more appealing to the funders. I think Main Street might be more appealing, but I can talk with Dan. We can also have more than one application.
Okay.
Yeah, it's up to $1 million. Obviously, the more attractive the project, the more likely you are to get funded for it. So
The more attractive of a project, is that what you said?
Yeah, the more attractive, the more likely you're going to get funded.
Okay.
So revitalizing Main Street would be a good project.
Okay.
I spoke with Chatham University's athletic director a couple weeks ago about basically our agreement with them. They're very much interested in renting this space in this building.
Okay.
For girls' lockers. Basically, they're buying the fact that they have boys' lockers over there on the field, but there's no girls' locker, they need to actually have that. They're looking at all sorts of options, but the best one for them is to actually transform some of the space in this building and turn it into a girls' locker room, maybe some office space. I asked them to give me what kind of space requirement they have, because we have space on the second floor and we have space on the third floor. Plenty of space on the third floor. I want to talk also with Carlo about the same thing, see if they want to kind of work with, both universities kind of work with us and get their own space. Ideally, fill out the whole third floor would be great. Because I like the idea of having just a couple of tenants and not just a bunch of tenants.
Right.
So I want to keep moving that discussion forward, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, but one thing we probably, to get any kind of an agreement with Chatham or Carlo, is we probably have to do a little bit more work ourselves in the building, specifically an HVAC system. So that's something we need to discuss and try to figure out costs and how we can fit into the budget.
Certainly, I think the conversation needs to be taken to both of them and ask them, what kind of use they want and how much space they want, and what are they willing to do and what aren't they not willing to do.
I think if we have, in my opinion, my estimation, because there was discussion when Seth was here, and HVAC was kind of what the breakdown was. I think if we have an HVAC system, I think they would be willing to build out the rest of these space, electrical, floor, tiles, drywall, all that stuff. That stuff, but HVAC is probably the most expensive single component.
So, that being said, I remember when they were doing the building, and I asked the engineer at the time, is it going to be set up upstairs on a separate meter so that it would be billed separately up there? And I never really did get a final answer, so I don't really know how that's wired or whatnot, but it sure would make sense
Yeah,
that they would pay their own heating and cooling costs of
that
it.
makes sense.
So it wouldn't be another added bill for us. So that was something, if we choose to do that, that's something we should specify.
Yeah, that sounds good. The other thing they mentioned was that they haven't built out and really renovated the boys' locker room because they can't do that really without having a girls' space as well. So once they get an agreement here and maybe move in, they'll basically redo all the boys' locker rooms as well over by the field. And maybe even try to do some more support getting into the stands, looking a little bit nicer as well. So
Okay?
there's a lot of potential here with both those universities, and I think we really take advantage of it, but we'll see how the conversation goes.
Well, please keep us informed.
Yes, of course.
Okay?
Yeah.
David, is that gaming money that you mentioned,
Mhm.
would we be able to use some of that money for HVAC upstairs?
I don't think the state would really find that to be a favorable project.
Because you
Would-
mentioned about the old bar building.
Yeah, I think they'd like to see something more community-wide
How about,
benefit.
how about Westfield for that matter?
Westfield does need to have some work done on the turf, because it's getting old.
Exactly, the turf,
I was also thinking of approaching what's the foundation that?
Campbell Foundation.
Going back to them and saying if they would like to help us renovate that space and the turf itself.
Right.
So, I
So
think,
you have options to work with.
there are some options, yeah. And I think, I don't know who's telling me this, but I think the rough estimate on redoing the turf could be about $1 million. So that's obviously outside of our.
And
current-
do we know the condition of the field as it sits right
Bob?
now?
Yes, we do.
Want to answer that, Bob?
Bob, what's the condition of the field?
I think the infields are wearing out.
Infield?
They said basic, baseball,
Okay,
so I mean, this I can exhibit
all right, so there's a couple of avenues we could go there with that.
And a quick little update regarding the electric vehicle garbage trucks. We got our first bill from Kansas State Bank regarding that. We haven't got the trucks yet, but they were expecting us to get the trucks by now, so they've sent us a bill. But they basically, we can just we're just paying the interest on this, and then we should get at least the first truck in January. But we'll get reimbursed for most of the stuff once we pay the bills. It's just the timing really is an issue.
And what about the stations?
The stations, that should be delivered in December, but I still need to get Duquesne Light to come out and upgrade the
Transformers?
transformers, and I need to find an electrician as well to actually handle the high voltage work for installing those.
Is Kostovny interested in doing that?
I haven't talked to them yet, but I will get to work on that. And that's all I have for now, unless somebody has questions.
Any questions for the manager?
The build-out was on the original agenda we sent out to all of us. Why was it taken off of the original agenda?
I
It
guess.
gives a good conversation to have about the build-out upstairs. And I thought that's what we did.
I took it off there because I didn't want it to be set so personalized into one item. I wanted to talk about the whole upstairs.
So they never made it back on there?
Boy, we just talked about it.
It's under the manager's report. Be something that we could all as a council.
I meant to put it on, but because I was traveling, there was a miscommunication with Melissa. She was gonna put it back on more of a broader description of this building and the old borough building.
Right.
But because I was traveling and there was a miscommunication, we couldn't. put it
Yeah,
back
I
on.
don't want to lose out on the opportunity of possibly having the tenant upstairs, you know, because when you read the report, we have all this dead space here, across the street, you know, number 3 fire hall. I mean, there's properties that we have that we need to make sure we're doing things with also.
No,
And
absolutely.
I asked you the question about that payment that Seth had made. Do we happen to know, are we able to call his bond on that, or?
I did not get a chance to call his bond about it, but I do know now the company that his bond was issued through, so I can reach out to them about that.
I mean, could
Yeah.
possibly getting, you know, the borough reimbursed?
Are you talking about the $160,000?
Yes.
Yes. I just found out through the grapevine, you know, nobody informed me.
I will have an answer for you next week.
You know, members of council.
Let me have the answer too.
Well, everybody, answer for everybody.
I mean, that's something that we should discuss right away. I mean,
I've been
you guys should
discussing it for a long
know
time.
about calling his bond. though.
I've been asking about it forever. We haven't got any
Right, I mean,
information.
calling his bond.
Yeah, I'll reach out to the bond company and see if it's still allowable to collect on it.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Let's move on to items for consideration for our regular meeting. The 2024 MMO authorization.
Rick, you got somebody wants to speak in the audience.
Where? Oh, hello.
Hello. Can I give my report for the sewage authority?
Sure.
We just have some updates I wanted to inform council on.
Sure, certainly stand up and.
Do I have to stand up?
You can.
I don't want to stand up.
Speak your mind. What's your name? Jackie
Well,
Coles.
Yeah, I'm Jackie Coles, I'm the manager of the Munhall Sanitary Sewer Authority. And I just want to give council an update on some grant funding that the authority has received recently. We have a lot of work being done here in the sewers of the old, we have a CCTV project that is going to start here in the next month or so. So we will have some crews out there cammering and cleaning the sewers up in the Homestead Park area. And we've been awarded several grants, and two being the GROW Cycle 9 grants, totaling up over $3 million. We have a lot of money being invested into the sanitary sewers with our current engineers, with a lot of work being done behind the scenes. We also have phase 1 CCTV repairs that are being done. I want to say that all the work that is being done in the sanitary sewers from now with all of the grant funding is going to bring us, the borough, into compliance with our phase 2 consent order through the DEP. So all of this work and all of the grant funding that's being, funneled through the authority is being put right back into the sewers to make them as good as they were 100 years ago. Does anybody have any questions? If anybody has any questions on any of the specific grant funding, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Can you explain what they're for?
I can. Okay, so the GROW grants, the bigger ones, one is a source flow reduction project, which is going to reduce the inflow and infiltration throughout the M49 sewer shed, which is the Ravine Street area. It's the northern part of Munhall and the Ravine Street area, the garden plan. We'll be doing a lot of work in the garden plan, lining sewers, which we have grant money for. The second GROW project is a green infrastructure plan that is in its preliminary phase at the former 12th Avenue playground site. There's a dog park down there now. We're very high level with PJ, El Casan. We're working on revitalizing that park, turning it into more of a community base. Like I said, it's very, very high level. But it's a redirection of stormwater project is what it is actually. It's going to be taking stormwater from 17th down to 12th, and it's going to funnel it over to the 12th Avenue playground, where they will be installing the water retention. If you know what's going on down at Barrett playground, down at Barrett School, they're doing the same thing up at the playground. So they'll be removing about 5 million gallons during an event, 5 million gallons or so of water.
And where is it gonna be let go at?
Well, it's going to either, depending on how it's situated, it's going to be underneath the dog park, and it's going to be the entire area is going to be impervious, which means it will let the water flow through it instead of it being a concrete or an asphalt surface. It will discharge down below in the alley behind and go into this existing sanitary system, it's just gonna hold that water back to prevent surcharging downstream.
You know, there used to be a reservoir,
Really?
right where that's at. I grew up across the street. There was a reservoir right there where the dog park is now, so.
We did some
Everything
site,
that goes around comes around.
that's right.
It's 100 years ago was a reservoir.
Well, there are some existing pipes that are in the park now that have been long since collapsed and, you know, all that, we're working on making that, we would like to set up a meeting with you guys to go through the intricate details and provide PowerPoint presentations. We'll have Lennon Smith here to provide, you know, some really in-depth information, if that's what you guys want.
Just curious because all that area is combined sewer.
The entire area.
So you're gonna take all the sanitary into this, or are you gonna try and combine, are you gonna try and take the rainwater out? Or are you gonna separate? You're gonna
Yes.
separate each street?
We're gonna separate the storm system from the sanitary, 18th down to 12th. We're gonna funnel the storm system only into this retention pond and then release it back into the combined system down on 11th Avenue. Those pipes down there are huge. I don't know if they're 18 to 24 inches, they're massive.
And will there be a cost for the residents?
As of right now, no. We have, Elkistan has funded 67% of the project. We have the GEDTF application in for $1 million, and it would more than fund the project as a whole.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Anything else?
No, that is, that's just a really high-level overview of what we got going on. Just so we will be out and we'll be in the sewers and we'll be cammering and
So
doing.
I got a question for you, and it had nothing to do with all this and that, because I've gotten several calls from people about rats in the sewers in different areas. What do we do about that? Do we trap them still, or do we poison them, or
I
is
believe
that the sewer authorities, or is that the boroughs?
So the borough has and I just know this just from years of, you know,
Right.
the borough has a guy who is actually certified to actually bait the sewers and with this special bait that only they can get. And they hang it on the rungs inside the sewers, they just hang it in there.
Okay. Are we still doing that, Bob?
Yes,
We are?
I got some service for you then.
okay.
Because I've got several complaints of several areas, so.
They're everywhere. They're literally everywhere.
Yeah.
There was a hawk in my front yard sitting on my garage with a rat this big, just chewing.
Need some more ox?
Jackie, when they're doing that camera, will it affect the traffic?
I pulled in, I'm like,
On the side streets, no, when we get to that point where it's gonna be a restaurant or, I'll let Tom know, I'll send him a list of streets.
Or
and
that
when-
savvy citizen?
Yeah, or something
That
like
would
that.
be good.
Yeah, we could, we can always get the notice out.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're gonna move on. We did the S&P bond rating. We're moving on to the Old Borough
Let me
building
do
use.
the MMO real quick.
Oh, we didn't do that?
No.
Okay.
So this is mostly just a annual requirement that the council has to authorize the MMO payments. There's a sheet here, it has the breakdown of the funds. For 2025, we received from the state $371,000 for pension, of which we can pay easily $327,000 in the pension plan, and also cover the general employees plan of $43,000. And then there was a small remainder to be left over to put in the DC plan, the direct contribution plan. So we're actually doing pretty well in terms of that. Our pensions are very well funded, both a year, which was highlighted in the credit review as well. Our pensions are doing well. So that's good news. But you just have a vote on next week to
Okay.
authorize the MMO payments.
All right, very good. Good. All right, so we want to go over the, we did go over the S&P bond rating decline. Anything you want to add to that? No? Okay, let's move to the Old Borough building use. know that we had someone come in and look at the boiler system. I never did get a report back on that, Bob. Do we ever get any report back from the contractor that was there?
No,
Nothing.
no.
Unbelievable. Okay. Well, we're gonna have to, just so council knows, the heat's not on in that building and it needs to be put on.
So we had someone check it out, they didn't come back and report it, or what?
Yep. What was their name? It was a contractor that we had used prior. A friend of mine came and looked at the boiler. He said it's a steam boiler, and to do steam work, you have to be really a steam boiler guy.
Right.
And he referred us to another company, which they came and they had serviced the boiler in years past. And they came and looked at the boiler, and we haven't heard anything back from them
Can we
yet.
find somebody else?
Or reach out to them, talk to them.
Yeah, I'll give him a call.
Yeah.
Because I certainly think we need to move on that before winter comes. Are we in agreement with that?
Definitely needs work on, but do we start figuring out any pricing on, space usage? What we're going to charge, anything like that, at least?
No, we haven't,
Any talks on that yet? Where we're gonna be at, so.
Irregardless, we can't let the building go without heat.
I agree.
We're all in agreement.
I was just asking about the people who want to move in there, did we start thinking about pricing for them also, that's all.
I would have no idea what to charge, you're right, I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's not my specialty.
Yeah, I don't know what they even,
Well, there are rates that you charge for commercial
Right.
applications.
Yeah, I don't know how-
I'm sure there are realtors that we could speak with that could give us numbers. But I don't think that's a councilman's position to do. I think that the manager can handle that with the staff. They could make phone calls and get someone here to do that.
Well, I didn't think we were gonna do it, I just thought, just seeing where we were at with it. And that's all, just a question of where we were at with it.
I'm just surprised that the company came there and sent men there to look at things, and they started working on the boiler, and they never came back and never called you. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. So,
piggybacking on that real quick,
yes,
I haven't gotten a chance to get two more quotes, but Chief Fuller has given me a quote for the needed upgrade to the police station HVAC on the end of the building, on this floor. So once I get two more quotes, then we can present to the council.
so I talked with him about this 2 days ago, about that, and I was surprised that what the plan was to put in mini split systems. Is that what we're talking about, Chief?
That's what the quote was for.
Yeah, so what we did is we built this building and we put a unit on top, and it doesn't work, and now we wanna spend more money to put split units in on this end and that end. That doesn't make sense to me.
It's a new building.
I would think
Nobody's
that-
held accountable.
I would think that the people that did the job
Yeah.
did either, they put too small a unit in, or they don't have the proper ducting in. One or the other, or both. So,
what do you do about it, I don't know. 2 years, right? You've been here, what, 2 years in this building? I think.
I just am amazed, that's all. Because we've had the problem ever since it started.
Without a doubt.
We got into this building, and Seth knew about it from day one, and I don't know what's transpired with all the ins and outs of it, but it sure doesn't make sense to spend another $10,000 on a unit for that area, and then another $10,000 on this room, when there's certainly something that doesn't make sense here. I think we're all in agreement about that.
Well, then maybe I'll try to get some HVAC people to come out and just give us some ideas of what we can do.
Thank you.
Can we find out who installed it to begin with?
That's what I was just
Sure,
gonna
I'm
say.
sure it's in our plans.
We can do that, and I can reach out to them, but I mean, after a couple of years.
They would
it's
in
like,
general.
Who cares?
Right.
Right.
So, but I'll try to get a hold of the original.
Maybe they did try it, maybe they did call them and have them come out and look at it, and there was no response. I think, does anyone on our staff know anything about that, Bob?
No.
about if they had looked at it or tried to balance anything or do any, because from what I heard, they put different diffusers in throughout, trying to cut them down and trying to regulate the air, push the air that way, which obviously didn't work. So I don't, you know,
Do you know who the HVAC contractor was on this job?
we can find out. We can find
Public
out.
Works had nothing to do with this.
No, I know
No, I
that.
know that,
I know that.
just being around.
I asked them to show me, when they were done, you know, what the electrical was, the AC, what we had to do, and
They
I
didn't
got
show you,
nothing.
they got, you know,
I mean, I don't know if the ACs on the roofs, they should be serviced, how often the filters should be changed. Nobody explained a thing to me. It was like, we're done.
We've done no maintenance on the roof unit since we've been in here.
No.
so I think we should call the engineer who did this, who was in charge of this job, and see if he can give us some direction on who did the work and,
Well, Franger was the gentleman,
yeah, right,
so they didn't tell nothing.
Because it was either that or.
yeah.
Call the general, then the general calls the sub, and the sub has to come and fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to have contracts and
Call
we had
it
to
general.
have agreements, you know, what was covered. And these things, if it's not 20 years later,
Well,
this is sad.
the elevator
It
breaks
wasn't
probably
it
every
wasn't
other
even
week.
a year, the chief had somebody in there working on
There was
it.
somebody stuck in it last week.
Did you hear what Bob said?
Yeah.
The elevator breaks every other week, and we've had people stuck in the elevator.
Yeah, one of our officers were stuck last week. We had to rescue.
Was that the first time, Bob, somebody got stuck in it?
No,
No,
no.
I got stuck in one there
They're
for a little
always
bit.
stuck in it. They're out here probably at least 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
Between them and the air conditioning, yeah.
Great job.
Because the motherboard and the air conditioner just had to be replaced in July.
2 years old.
somebody needs to be.
I mean.
All right, we're gonna move on.
We ought to be looking though for HVAC for the rest of the second floor and upstairs. So we may want to put the police side, you know, and over here together with that also. Instead of, you know, we spend $10,000 to do it, what's upgrade the system and put the rest of it in there, depending on pricing and everything.
So you call your general and see what he has to say.
Definitely look at that, but we still have to get the, you know, AC and heat upstairs on the third floor.
So if we're gonna do the third floor, and we've already discussed this, and we need to have them pay their own electric up there and their cooling costs, because it's foolish for us to do this space out up there and us pay for the electric up there. So we wanna have that done separately, so that the utilities are in their name and a meter on their dime, so when they're running the air and they're doing this and that up there, we're not paying for it. That makes sense to any building.
I understand what you're saying, but what Seth said to you guys before I was even on council, is that they didn't put the 2 meters in. It was one service coming in, servicing the whole building.
I don't know that. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't.
So, yeah.
But there's ways to run a wire, and I'm sure there's pathways down and up and whatever. It needs to be looked at. We're gonna look at it, and we're gonna do that. I think it makes perfect sense to have it done properly this time with some input with people that don't wanna just throw this in and get it done. Let's put some thought into it and say, if we're gonna have 2 colleges up there, let's have, if they're gonna have one side on one side and another side on the other side, or they're gonna share, however it works out, ends up working out, that each college pays its own way, so that Munhall Borough is not paying their way.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but let's, you know, we have to, you know, have a revenue source coming into the road also. We just have dead
Can I ask
space.
a question? Doesn't it make sense before you go forward with getting new contractors to look at it? This is a relatively new building. Bring up in public the problems that it's having, so the public knows what you're dealing with before the taxpayers are gonna have to go and spend more money for a new building that a contractor should still be responsible for.
That's what we're doing right now.
I believe that's what I just did, ma'am.
I think she said it all.
And I agree 100% with you, honey. But yes, I mean, it's common sense. You have a brand new building that's never worked right. I'm sure that Dave is gonna look into this, right, Dave? Question, no question about it.
Yeah, it's on my list of
It's got
1,000 things.
million things to do. I get it. So, did we even discuss the old borough building use yet?
No.
We referenced it a little bit.
So we have the, Munhall Cares that wants to go into the building, and they wanna take the whole building per se, this and that. We certainly need to get the heat on in the building before we move anywhere further in that. And I talked with Dave Cannon earlier today about this. Dave, do you wanna just go over what a little bit of our conversation was about the building over there?
Yeah, before anyone goes in there and occupies the building, I myself and Matt should walk through it and make sure it's up to code. I think I've briefly touched with you, the outside ramp, it's, falling apart on one side, the entranceway, and then inside the building, since the heat was off last year, there's peeling and chipping paint throughout the whole building. And there's some ceiling tiles that are falling down.
And that's a direct link with no heat in the building, absolutely. So, I mean, those are minor things that can be done. The handicap ramp just needs minor work done to it. If we can put the stones back on and cement them back in place, that can be done. I mean, but it's all on what council wants to do. So, we'll talk about that further at the next meeting if you'd like. Let's move on to the tri-cog land bank. We did vote on the joining the cog land bank, and we have questions that we need to ask Ann Lewis and the land bank on procedures, how it happens. We have a whole list of questions that we have brought up at the community property meeting. So we do need to sit down with her and so she can inform us on how this thing actually works. When is the money due? How much, there was a question on, a big question was, is the payment on the amount owed plus fees, or the fees not involved in there? I think that was a big discussion that we had about that too, Dave. Just so I know you have notes on all that stuff that we went over. We're still not really sure when and how all that works. And the same being said about the sheriff's sale process. We're not sure about that either, the whole process.
Can the manager just meet with Ann Lewis and go over things between the two of them?
I couldn't see why not.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Couldn't see why not.
I've got a list of questions from you.
You're right, we did. We went over all that. Okay, so let's move forward about the MMO between the Steel Valley School District and the Borough of Munhall regarding the SRO officers. This is, I believe this is what we do every year, is that right, Chief?
Yes,
Right. So you want to go over that for a minute, Chief, and talk about it for a second?
I will, if you have them in front of me.
Yeah, but it's in your packet, there's a copy of the reason.
Just a general discussion of what it is.
Yeah, every year we have to sign this. It's just an agreement between the borough and the school district. I gave this to Greg and he approved it before, we gave it to the borough manager. It just states that, the SRO is, a member of the police department. And we direct him. That we try to have 2 full-time SROs in the building, as much as possible, just things like that.
Okay. Any questions on that, Council?
Since we're talking about it, I got a question. Why was the hiring of a full-time officer taken off the agenda that was sent out on Friday?
I took it off.
Why did you take it off?
Because I couldn't sit through another meeting of insults.
Well, you said one time that anything can be on the agenda
It can,
Well, then why didn't you leave it on there?
because I couldn't
Because you didn't want it on there.
couldn't have a 3-hour meeting again. Mr. Eads was highly irritable and he was on.
So because you don't want to deal with Mr. Eads, we took it off of the agenda.
We did, and I did, and I can do that as president of council.
Oh, you can do that?
Yes, I
Yeah, but you
can.
said anybody could put anything on too. I've tried to put stuff on and you stopped me from doing that.
Tell me what? Tell me what?
Well,
You're talking about out of two ways.
okay.
I never did that before.
Oh, you never did
This is
that?
the first time I've ever done it.
Oh, no.
Did we,
Oh, yeah.
at the last meeting, did we table the full-time police or we?
We voted on it and we voted not to do it.
We
That's
voted to
it, that's
table it.
And then he wanted to
No,
bring,
we
no, we
voted
did not
to
table it. We voted not to do it,
About the, I thought so.
and we did. And then Mr. Eads had a tantrum. And he wouldn't let the meeting go.
So the
And
last-
he interrupted the meeting and it was a 3-hour ordeal.
We did vote, we weren't gonna have
We
it. It
voted
was
not
four-
to do it.
It was a 4 vote, we,
Yes. And that's why I took it off the agenda,
I don't
wanna go through it
Mr.
again.
Youngkins.
It was voted to be
Well,
taken off
Mr.
the-
Brennan,
Wait,
taken off the agenda because Bertie asked to see about the barn rating. So before you throw name calling at me.
No, called me the last meeting, the whole meeting.
I did not.
You did.
I did not.
You did. It's
I'm
okay.
saying I had a tantrum.
You did.
Wanting to protect our kids
I know.
is by far about having a tantrum.
without a doubt.
You may not want to protect our kids, but I do.
Well, no, don't.
Oh, ho, 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 ho.
Oh, me?
Well, there you go.
Whoa,
There you
whoa,
go
whoa.
again, Mr.
You're saying
Eads.
I had a tantrum.
You did. You had a tantrum. Watch the video.
What was my tantrum?
All right, I'm gonna move on. Okay? I'm not gonna argue with you.
Oh, you can,
The MMO.
But we won't argue.
No, I'm not gonna argue with you.
Okay, that's fine.
So we're not gonna hire another full-time officer.
We voted not to.
I think
This is
we
one in,
we voted
possible
to hire.
January,
Alright.
no later than June. So if you hire this guy, he goes into the school pays for him, and when June comes up, he comes out, we have an officer
We
on the
have 2
street.
officers in both schools full-time right now.
Yeah, but we're also doing a lot of overtime. How much overtime are we doing,
Did you
chief?
talk to the chief?
We're still
So
short.
far, since we put somebody in the park school full-time, it's been three extra terms.
okay, move on.
So we're gonna close the Main Street Halloween Parade on October 26th. We already discussed that. And we already discussed the initial budget discussions with David. And we also talked about the Ravine Street erosion, which could be seen as both the new walls falling down and the Creek Street issue. So that's it. And then, any old business we'd like to talk about?
It's not old, but it's new. Can I break it up?
Sure.
Chief, did you give Dave that paperwork for the archive of the Facebook posts so that we can post more police-wise on our social
We
media?
talked about it, but I haven't officially given it to him yet. I'll give it to him tomorrow.
Rick, there's something that, the chief has, I think we should use it for police for social media, that they can put wanted people out there that they have warrants for, and everything that gets posted on the police department Facebook page, be more active in the community, and this company just stores everything, because they're required to have all their old data, so that's something.
Is it legal?
Yeah,
Legal to do? Put someone's name that you have a
If
warrant on?
we go through this company, and
Okay.
we talked to several different companies, and this is the cheapest one.
What's the cost?
It's $4,600 for the first year, and then it goes down to $4,100 a year after that.
Okay.
it's a good thing for our police to have more interaction with the community, and they're able to post more things. I think that's something that we should all look at.
Can we use that money, can we use our what's the account, what's it called, forfeiture account to do that?
I could look into it. I don't know what we have left.
You can only use forfeiture money on something that was already on budget. Only something budgeted?
It's
It
non-budget,
can't be
non-budget.
budgeted.
It can't be budgeted?
Right.
So this is something that will qualify for.
Right.
Yeah, I just don't know how much we have left.
Okay. Well, once you budget for it, you can't use the
Right,
forfeiture money.
that's correct.
So the initial payment, we could use we can use it for.
We could.
And then every year after, we'd have to just budget that money
Right.
for it. But it's something that we should definitely.
I guess, I mean, I think so. I'm not.
Okay. Anything else? Any public comments?
Motion to adjourn?
Any additional
Yeah,
items?
Mr.
For public comment?
His hand,
That's what I just asked.
his hand
I
goes.
I didn't see your hand. Sorry.
I didn't even know he was back there, to tell you the truth. I couldn't see him, he just thought.
Sorry. I want to talk to you about the power of data. Okay? So Margaret Street, just an example. So I took the list from Dave and took a look at Margaret Street itself. One Margaret Street, this is the area that has houses, they're about 900 feet in length, okay? According to Google Maps, okay, if you measure it out. There are 53 facilities. It looks like one's an apartment building, one duplex, the rest are single family homes, or vacant lots. Okay, there are, at this point, houses that are on the list itself that I counted that were 8. Out of the 8 houses, consistently 4 of them do not pay their taxes, but several of them are paying their taxes. But there's the more interesting thing is there are 11 vacant lots, 3 of which are the owners pay for them, land value of $500. There are lots there, in fact, Munhall Borough lot, or parcel number, 0, it is 0131D-240, tax exempt. There's actually 4 lots in a row on Margaret Street.
That the borough owns.
No, one is owned by the borough, and the other 3 are ones that are vacant lots that are not being paid for their tax. So, at least the county taxes. And since the county taxes are so small, I seriously doubt that the municipal taxes are being paid. So if you total that up, 24.5% of the 53 are unpaid. And that's just looking at one area in the borough.
So Bill, you were at the property meeting, and that was, if you do remember, I asked Dave, I'd like a list of all the tax delinquent properties and how long they've been gone.
Yeah,
And I would be shocked at the numbers. And like you're shocked at one street, think of what it is through the whole borough.
Right, so.
I agree.
So it is interesting. These lots, you know, whether it be the land bank or sheriff's hill or whatever it may be, there's a lot of opportunity here. And this is just looking at a very small area.
So what are you actually getting at here?
What I'm getting at is there's a lot of money on the table.
We all know that.
No, you don't.
Yes, we do.
How so?
We-
No one can give
There's delinquent
77.
taxes for years and years.
Right. We were given 77 properties,
Okay.
okay? We weren't given any lots. A lot does not have an address. It has a parcel number. A property has a
But we were
parcel
aware
number
of
and
that.
an address.
We always aware of that.
I don't think we know how big the problem is, okay? That's my point. So there's a lot of opportunity here. And let me tell you the big tools I used. Google Maps,
Okay.
county assessment website, and Excel. And in discussions with the borough manager, I put together a model for him, which I will share with him, and I will share the data I pulled off the county website.
It's
You can take
much
it
more
further.
than that. It's much more than what you're saying.
Right, and I think, this being so, as the council, Mr. Ostrowski, you should give him a little direction right there about taking the planning commission and pointing some of their efforts in that direction. Okay, looking at properties associated with it.
Well, you say we weren't aware of it. Were you aware of it when you were on council?
No,
Okay.
I was not aware to the, I don't think, see, it was surprising to me. I have conversations with Brad. I don't think Brad knows that, and he lives on that street.
Well, drive down the street.
I did.
There's a lot of empty lots.
Right.
I know that.
It took me a while to figure out where they were, because I actually said, oh, between
1307,
And-
you said
and-
1311.
and-
Oh, well, that's plot number 333.
And just for conversation, Bill,
Yeah.
I'm gonna fill you in on what Dave Cannon says. He doesn't like to knock buildings down, because once you knock them down,
You have an empty
you
lot.
got an empty lot, and now you've got nothing.
We have like 33 empty lots, if not more. So we
So
tore
there's
down
11.
buildings, and there's empty lots
I
there.
disagree with you completely. There are 11 on one street.
Yeah.
I know.
There's
And-
many
and-
more
and-
lots,
And then
right?
it goes even further about the conversation that we had at the last meeting of what the cost is to build a house. And
Right.
it was $350,000.
Jesse said around 300, a little over 300.
So,
Well,
it's insane.
But now people are starting to look into small houses.
Well, that's what I brought up, the little house, $10,000
Those
by
little Elon Musk
Elon
houses.
Musk. You saw it, didn't
Yeah.
you?
Look,
Our code don't permit it.
What?
the lots may
Small
be
house.
too small to build a new house on. I don't know what the size, because some of these are only 20 foot, 25 feet wide today.
Right.
Why does the borough own one?
Because they took it over.
They probably
No,
boiled some
there's,
air
you
out.
wanna know what, it's from 1923.
Yeah, it might be.
It is not on Margaret Street, it connects Homestead and Munhall.
It's the walkthrough lot.
Yeah, it's the walkthrough.
It's the walkthrough
It's the
lot.
pat little.
What I'm saying here, which, I did this on my own time, mostly because I was curious to see what the size of the potential problem is. And I think it's very large.
I do too. That's,
And so
that's,
finding, in your discussions with the land bank, right there, not only can you say, you know what, I've got 8 properties on Margaret, I think, but there's really only 5, okay, that aren't paying their taxes consistently. But you also have 8 lots that aren't paying their taxes, okay? So you suddenly go from 5 to 13, and that's in 900 feet. That's the point.
So if he's talking 33 and you're talking 9, we're way over the 33.
Oh, well, yeah, we,
Right, and I don't know, you can see some of the neighbors do indeed cut the grass, okay? You can see that in the pictures. As you go down, you get the pictures on Google Maps from November of 22. I drove down it today, and you can see some neighbors are treating that yard like their own. Now, perhaps one of the things that you can do, right, that it was talked about previously, is kind of like essentially gifting it, and then just their properties are going to increase, which their assessment should increase, which means, and whether they take you up on it or not,
well,
is a good question. One of the other things is, there's a house for sale down there. Anyone want to guess what it's going for? Hasn't sold, it's dropped. It's been renovated.
182,000.
It's now down to 190. Okay, so
It hasn't sold.
Right.
that's not sold yet, but I think there's a lot of opportunity there. It's just a matter of looking at the data. And, I am sure there are much more efficient ways than I did to do it.
And I think legal tax would have all that information.
Well,
And they-
actually, this is kind of funny. It says, call Jordan Tax Service.
Jordan, not legal.
Jordan does the county.
yeah, they
Right,
do
that's
county.
what they're doing the county.
Because that's what, yeah.
But our tax collector and our delinquent tax collector should have all that information. And it should be just a matter of them punching it out and giving it to David.
Well,
You would think.
as a good citizen, I will pass this on to David, and in my time, I will look at other
Thank you,
areas
Bill.
associated with it and pass them on. I think this is a big opportunity.
I do too.
Thank you for staying involved.
Dave, you don't have a list of all the vacant lots?
Yeah,
Do you?
no, basic cuts close to 50 altogether.
Look,
So
I know
Micey's cutting-
we've torn down 33 houses since I've been here.
All right, so Micey's cutting 50 lots. We have 70 something on the houses,
Yeah.
so we're a lot more.
So-
Just there.
if it takes you, if it takes a long period of time, and no disrespect to you, I'm saying this here, but if you really know the data, you should be able to report on it at a level right there that they can ask you, and you can get that information in your hands within a week. Okay?
I could get it to you within 2 days. I mean, I could drive around Munhall and tell you exactly
Then,
block, blocks.
then please, like
That's
Ray
what I want,
said,
Dave. I want that information.
Okay.
I mean, I think there is a lot of vacant lots out there, and there's a lot of potential opportunity.
And,
No.
and it's delinquent.
No, you gotta-
And how many years delinquent are they?
No, you gotta
And
remember-
That's my big question.
There's hillsides that are considered lots.
These are just the ones on Margaret. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about ones that are hillside.
Yeah, I mean,
These are
there's,
developed
That
lots.
Sensco came and talked to us about.
Yeah.
That's what I'm not
Right.
talking
Yeah.
about that.
I can
I'm
get those
talking
together.
about vacant lots in houses.
I mean, he has a really good point, and just to add to a little bit of that, I know on the planning commission with even the new development that Jesse started down on 11th Avenue, and those lots didn't have the frontage that's now required.
Right.
You know, they came in from the planning commission, they asked for a variance, we recommended the variance based upon building a new home. So these vacant lots, yes, they can put a new house on.
We can give them
And we can give them a
variances.
variance to do so, whether it's a
Absolutely.
small house, big
Well,
house, whatever.
You're right.
Well, actually, to tell you the truth, we already gave that thing. What happens when our house is torn down? We tell them, leave the foundation there, okay? Because now they're rebuilding the house, they're not building a new house. So theoretically, all those houses probably could be built on if you leave foundations. That was the way to get around it. Because the reason behind that was, for 100 years, that house was 3 feet away from each other.
Right. And
You know?
the neighborhood is that way.
It was built that way.
Right.
You know, so that's how they got away from zoning for that issue. Just leave the foundation in.
Just food for thought, I just wanted
Yeah.
to, you
No,
know, we're doing it now. so
Agreed.
we-
And honestly, we can change the zoning ordinances if we
Right.
want to as well. That could be done. That's what Dave wants to do.
I mean,
He
really,
wants to look at things.
all the projects that we've looked at over the past several years, I mean, and Kevin can attest to this, I mean, you look at the areas, so when it comes to the planning commission, you look at whether it's North Munhall, South Munhall, and you look at the side room, you look at the frontage, and really, I mean, Northern Munhall was part of the mill town. I mean, so they built everything on top of each other. To get away from that, to have, you know, the offsets that you're gonna have in, we'll say, Southern Munhall, right? You don't have that, so you have to either say, hey, we want a vacant lot, or we want to put a house on there.
Right.
So a lot of the stuff that we motioned to, you know, recommend an approval on, that came in front of you guys, was based upon that. We'd rather see development than a stagnant property. sitting
Right.
there.
Absolutely. And they do have the vacant side lot
Program.
thing too, the county. So people down there could apply and get ownership of a side lot.
The only thing that I would say to that would be, if you decide to gift that property to a homeowner, right? The way with the school district and everyone's buying new houses and then reassessing the houses and the school district tax going up, if you do that for the resident, they might get really mad. Just throwing that out there, so I don't know if it's a good thing to try to develop the property that's there, instead of regifting it, then now your school taxes go through the roof because the property value went up from the last time it was.
So if the people who live there, and then they take care of the vacant lot, and they use it like their own, right? They're not paying a dime for it. But you give them that piece of property, now the property's doubled, every tax out there goes up.
There's a lot of people I know that use vacant lots and they take care of them. I know there's a couple up and even in the garden that people are using, and they're cutting the grass and they're taking care of everything. But I know that, again, if you gift that lot to somebody and then the school district comes in and reassesses that and takes you to court for it, now your school district taxes are going up, everything's going up, and they're gonna say, I got a piece of property for what? And I wasn't paying, I didn't have any increases prior to this, and now it's gonna hurt me. So one of those things to take into consideration, might be better off to develop the property than to gift it.
Yep. Okay. Any additional items? If not, I'd ask for an adjournment.
I had a question.
Excuse me.
Sorry. How many people are trying to come in here and rent space in this building and you guys are turning them down?
We've never turned anyone down.
That's all I wanted to ask.
Thank you. Okay. All right. I need a motion.
Motion.
Need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for attending.